Hello everyone, I'm going to be teaching you how to create a Java application. It will utilize a while loop, a for loop, and an if statement. First off, I'm going to show you the non-IDE way of doing this, where we will create the files ourselves. So I'll create a new folder here, we'll call the project dictionary. This will be the name of our project. Essentially, the program that I want to make will have a dictionary of words. We'll prompt the user for a letter, and we'll print out any word that starts with that letter. So I'm going to create a new file, and I have the extensions turned on here. So I'm just going to call this file dictionary.java. And this will prompt you for changing the file name extension. You can just click yes. And one more thing I'm going to do is add a folder called source, or src. We can move this file into source. So now that we have our dictionary.java file, we can open this in an application such as Notepad++. We essentially just need to label this class as a dictionary. So we will label it class dictionary, opening and closing brackets. And then within this, we'll create the entry point to our application. So this always starts as public static void main, and then you throw in a parameter string art. You don't have to worry about that for this tutorial, but we'll also want to have an opening closing bracket. Everything that we do will be contained within opening closing curly brackets in terms of methods and classes. So to test that this is working, we'll just print something out to the console. So we can do that very simply by doing system.out.println, and we can type something like hello world. And we want to end all of our statements with a semicolon, and all of our method calls will have opening and closing parentheses with the information that we're passing into that. So in this case, it is looking for a string, so we'll just throw in a string of hello world. So we can save this, come over here, and I can open a new terminal in this location. And now I can type javac, and then the name of the class, dictionary.java. This will compile it into Java bytecode, and then we can run this using Java dictionary. And as you see, it printed out hello world. So now what I'm going to do is that we got that out of the way, is I want to delete this, and then we can open this up in something a little more robust called an IDE. It's essentially a glorified text editor, and we can open this project. There it is. So we can click on the dictionary folder, open. We're just going to trust the project, so we just made it. And this will generate all the other information that we need for this class. So we created the .idea folder, which will hold all of the stuff that's associated with this project. And then within our source folder, we'll have our dictionary class that we just created. So this one doesn't have a JD key to find, so we're just going to do Java 1.8, which is the most common currently. So now that we have our class, we're actually going to make this public. Not really going to change how this functions. And for our dictionary, we want a set of words. We're actually going to use an array. So we'll use an array, a string array, and we'll name this array dictionary. And then we can set that equal to an array of strings, and I'll put in beetle, juice, taste, like, bug, nuts, and we'll continue this on the next line with some additional words. So we'll do boggle, toggle, goggle, something like brim, trim, and we'll finish it up with brim. I'll end that with a semicolon because it is a assignment. We'll also make this static so that it's accessible by our static method. We'll delete this line here. We'll want to create a set that would get rid of any duplicates from this list. So we can add in an additional duplicate. So these two are duplicated here. The set will automatically remove any duplicates from whatever data we're passing in. So we'll create a hash set strings. We'll name this string set. And we'll set this equal to a new hash set. And we'll pass in the array, but we'll have to set it, change it to a list. So we'll do arrays.asList. We'll pass in the dictionary. And we can press Alt Enter in our fancy IDE to automatically import all these classes, which will be at the top of the file here. And this just lets Java know what resources we're using. So we'll also want a semicolon at the end. And a good practice is to include comments, and you can do that with a double forward slash or a forward slash and a star or asterisk. But for single line comments, we'll just do a double forward slash. And we can do variables are defined by their type in camel case. So usually you want these comments to reflect what this actually does. And you can also have, for Java docs, you can do that up here as a dictionary class. You can do the Java doc indicator. This turns this comment green. And we can do comment that describes the class. For example, we'll just say that this is a searchable dictionary for by letter, the first letter. So then back down here in public static void main, we can continue this structure. And we want a scanner so that we can take in a input from the user. So we'll do scanner equals new scanner system.in. So any input we type into the console will be put into the scanner, and we can read it and work with the variable that we get out of that. So then we're going to want to print a prompt for the user to respond to. So in our IDE, we can do sout and tab. It's different in every IDE, but in IntelliJ, it'll be SOUT for print line. And actually, we're going to change this to print F. So we can do enter a letter to search for words in the dictionary. We'll do %n for a new line, and a angled caret, side caret, not sure what those are called, a space just to give room for the user's input. Under that, we'll create a new string variable called response, and we'll set that equal to scanner.next, which will take the next line of text. We could sanitize the input and ensure that it's just a letter, not a number. We could do a lot of different checks to make sure that it's not going to break the system. But for now, we're just going to assume that all of the input is clean. So we're just going to say what we're doing here. So print a prompt for the user to respond to. So here's where we're going to implement our while loop, for loop, and if statement. The way I want to do this, essentially create an infinite loop until a condition is met. We'll take the user input. As long as it doesn't equal quit, we'll keep looping. If it equals anything other than quit, we will use that and take the first letter out of that string, read any words that start with, for example, B, would return beetle, bug, boggle, brim. So we're going to create the while loop. So while, we're going to not this, which basically inverts what we're doing. So if this were to say true, this would be while false, which would never run. If it said false, it would run forever because it would turn it into true. So while it's true, it'll always be true because it'll never change. We do whatever's inside of the while loop. But for this, we're going to do while the response dot equals ignore case equals quit. What this will do is while the response equals ignoring the case, so if they were to type quit or quit with a capital I over here, any variation, it will ignore the case and match it to quit. As long as they type in quit, it will stop this loop. So the inverse of that. So while it doesn't say quit, we will do our loop. So inside of this set of brackets here, we'll create another loop, a for loop, and we'll do our string. We can do next string. Or we could do next word, I suppose. And then in essentially is what that character means, dictionary. Then we create another loop. So we have a loop inside of a loop, and we'll have an if statement. So if this next word dot char at 0, this will take the first character and it's base 0, so it'll take this. If this was the word char at, it would take C out of that word, and if that equals response dot char at 0, so it'll loop through the dictionary here, and for every letter that begins with the first word of the response, it will grab that word. So for example, if the response says boy, it'll take the B out of that and search for beetle, bug, boggle, and brim. So we can create another block here for the if statement, and we'll just print out the word on a new line. So we can do so, and then the word that we found in the dictionary, so it'll just be next word. So then we'll want to prompt the user again for an input. So essentially, we're just going to keep asking until they enter quit. So I believe we can do soof to do the printf, and then we can start on a new line, and we'll do enter a letter to search for words in the dictionary. Essentially what we have up top, and there's probably a cleaner way to do this, but for the sake of this tutorial, we'll just do this. And then we'll set that response variable equal to scanner.next, which will be the next input. Now in this IDE, we don't have to do anything command line, so we'll just hit this run dictionary main, and this should just run it for us. And it'll start a little command prompt down here, and we can start entering in letters. So if we started with B, it will return beetle, bug, boggle, brim, like I had mentioned. And if we were to enter a word such as boy, it'll only take that first letter and do the same output. So as I mentioned earlier, the word grim and grim are in here twice, but since we're using a set, it'll only have one instance of that word. So we can type G and okay. So actually, I made a mistake here, and this is very common, but we'll want to use the string set. So the next word in the string set, which is this set here, which is from our dictionary. So all of our dictionary words get put into this set. And then down here, we will search each word in that set and then compare them to the response first letter. The first letter of the word in the dictionary to the first letter in the response word, and then we will print out that word. So now, if I stop this and rerun it, now if I were to type boy, it should still work the same. B will print the same thing. If I type G, it'll only have Google or goggle, guts, and grim. That's all we really need to touch on, just to kind of show you the features and functions of Java and how to run an application. Thank you for watching.